Welcome to Morphology in the Classroom with Literacy Connections. So this video is looking at planning and assessment. So firstly, looking at planning, and we're looking overview of the single lesson. So we always begin with introducing the morpheme, how to pronounce and spell, reading words, spelling words, looking at the meanings, and then going on to independent tasks. So overall, we're looking at a 15 to 20-minute lesson because the independent tasks can happen at any time, and they can be used when you want to work with your Tier 2 groups. So the rest of the class is continuing with independent work. And, we go into the lesson sequence a little more in that lesson planning video. So overall, you've got two options with where you fit in your morphology. You could do that as a whole block over 1 to 2 weeks and just focus on morphology in that time. Or fit a single lesson just within your spelling program. So 1 day a week, instead of doing a spelling lesson, do a morphology lesson. So it's all very similar, but the structure is slightly different. And because that structure is different, and you've got children who are very used to the routine of a lesson, then if you always have your morphology lesson on the same day, like a morphology Thursday, then that can be helpful for those students who really like that routine. Now, for every lesson, we encourage you to create a slideshow. It's just easier to manage the pace of the lesson and to provide illustrations that help, words that you can read. So use the slideshows that we have created. We've got 12 there for you to use. And then for the other morphemes that you need to teach, just use those as a template and a guide. And you may find that you want more of a focus on meaning or spelling, so just increase the we do in those sections, but making sure you always include definition, example, reading, spelling, meaning, and add in some interesting etymology elements as well, where students could look up etymology while they're working with you. So assessment, we always come back to what are our lessons all about: reading, spelling, and meaning. That's why we're learning morphology, so we want to assess around that. Now, the reading for most of the class are going to be fine picking up the reading through the lesson. So probably only target those children who need decoding support to do the reading word assessment. So you want to be checking single word reading. Can they read a sentence with that morphology and passages? So you need to be hearing them one to one. So either, in a one-to-one session or a small group session, and you're checking if they can chunk their words into morphemes. So, can they see in disrespect that we've got those two prefixes sitting there, dis and re? In spelling, you deliver to a whole class, just like a standard spelling test, using words and morphemes you've already taught. So this is, quite easy. You just can carry out your spelling assessment during a lesson. You can look at things like word sums, and you're checking the spelling at the join of that word sum. You can use matrix to check spelling, or the dictated sentence that just happens in every lesson. If you want to look at a created morphology spelling assessment in Australia, there is Motif that does the dist M, and that is created with pseudo words, which is quite interesting, and some key morphemes. So in the motif assessment, there are 28 words, only focusing on suffixes, but you're still getting a good idea of, are they understanding those morphemes? You can see there that, Jessica will yock. Yesterday she yocked. So can they apply the correct morpheme to that word? And then a meaning assessment. These are similar exercises that would be within your lesson. So can you match a word to a definition? If you're, you can also look at word detectives to see if they can create the meaning based on what they already understand about the morpheme. So if they know contra means against, and they know dict means to say, even if they don't know the meaning of the word, can they use those morphemes to guide them to that meaning? Sentence writing also helpful for meaning. So that example there with antiseptic, that you provide the picture prompt, they write a sentence that goes with it. Or if you want a little bit more challenge, just ask them to write a sentence with that word. So you don't necessarily have to plan for assessments that sit outside of the lesson. Most of the assessment you can do is formative within that lesson. So you're going to learn a lot from the dictated sentence for spelling or write a sentence to check for meaning. And then you can mark books, or if you're working with whiteboards, you could just do a scan of the room with the Chinit to see if they're on track or not. You can also use the provided worksheets that are there for independent practice. You could use those occasionally under assessment conditions to see how they go as well. Use the curriculum for a guide. It is quite clear where the scope and sequence is in the curriculum, so that is going to guide whether your students are proficient or not, if they're managing to read, spell, and understand the meaning of those morphemes. And just like spelling, we're really going for a mastery approach with morphemes. We want them to learn them and lock them into long-term memory. That means we have to bring in quite a bit of review and retrieval, so making sure that's part of your lesson. You can also bring in the morphemes that you've previously taught into spelling lessons as well, and into your morphology lessons. We've got a morpheme card pack that can be added to your sound pack as well for easy review if you're doing small group work. So all the best with your planning and assessment.